Hello students, I hope all of you are doing well in this current lockdown situation. I hope all of you are staying at your home, staying inside. But in this critical situation of this lockdown, we need to maintain our social distancing and also we need to maintain our online teaching and learning process obviously. So today I am going to carry on our teaching and learning process in the formal language and automata theory. And today I'm going to discuss some of the topics that will cover the regular language, context free grammar, regular grammar, some examples of them, and I will try to find an example where I can cover both of them. Okay, so start today's lecture. Okay, so today we are going to discuss about regular grammars. Previously, we have discussed about the regular languages and regular expression. And regular grammar is the part where things got started, gets pretty much serious about the finite automata. Actually, we have discussed about DFA, NFA, their differences and everything, but we haven't looked at the regular grammar, and we have also studied regular language and regular expression just to come to this main part of the regular grammar. Okay, so let's start our topic. So before going on to the regular grammar, we need to understand that what is the origin of this. Now, I have already discussed about Chomsky hierarchy in the class when we discussed about the introduction to automata. So, Chomsky hierarchy is the hierarchy where the languages, grammar, and the machines are presented in a tabular form, or you can say in a hierarchy. Actually, the figure I drawn in the board when I was explaining in the class, it was like this. Okay, this was the Chomsky hierarchy, but this is also acceptable. I mean, this is the tabular form. Okay, so regular grammar or regular language is basically lying at the bottom of the hierarchy, and then came the CFG and push down automata, and then the linear bounded automata or LBA, and finally the Turing machine came into play. Okay, so what is a regular grammar? That can be regular grammar is a grammar that can be understood by regular language, or the grammar that we use in a regular language. And what is a regular language? A language that is accepted by the machine, that is finite automata or finite state automata. Okay. So first of all, you have to understand that whenever we are talking about grammar, regular grammar or context-free grammar, they are all like they're all basically using the concept of the grammar of our language. That means if we are talking in English, we need to say follow some set of grammars, right? So here also, if we are using the regular language, we need to follow some of the set of rules or set of constraints. Those will be called the grammar for that particular language. If it is a context free language, then it will be context free grammar. If it is a regular language, then it is a regular grammar. Okay, so the what is the regular grammar? Now we need to discuss about the regular grammar in terms of automata or finite automata. Okay, so a grammar G can be formally described using the four tuples, that is V, T, S and P. Now we need to understand that what are these four tuples. Now while discussing about the finite automata, we also saw that they were discussed with set of tuples, and here also in regular grammar we are going to use in some set of tuples. Okay, so what is V? V is set of variables or non-terminals, T is set of terminals, S is a start symbol, and P is production rule. Now before coming on to the production rule, we need to discuss what is V, T and X. So V means set of variables or non-terminal symbols. Now what is a non-terminal symbol? Non-terminal symbol are the symbols which cannot be represented using other symbols, or alternatively you can say that the symbols that cannot be replaced. So if I am taking an example, let's take an example of this one. Okay, so here you can see that S implies AB, where capital A implies A. and capital B implies B. Now you can see that I can replace this A with small a and capital B with small b. Okay, but I cannot replace this small a or small b with other variables or other symbols. So those will be called the non-terminal sorry, the terminal symbols that cannot be replaced. And though the symbols that can be replaced like A, B, also A's are the non-terminal symbol. Okay, so the set of this non-terminal symbol is called a V, and the set of the terminal symbol is capital T. So for this particular example, V is capital S, capital A, capital B, and that means these are the non-terminal. Okay, these can be replaced, but small a and small b cannot be replaced, so they are terminal symbol. What is the start symbol is? Start symbol is Start symbol is a symbol which is a designated member of the set of non-terminals. That means S is also a non-terminal. Okay, and from this non-terminal we can derive other successive applications or the production rules. Okay, so you can see that we have started from this S and then we have gone on to other derivations. Okay, so that is the starting symbol or start symbol from which we can start the operations or applications of the particular string that is given. Yes, that is the starting symbol. Production rule. What is the production rule? A production rule has the form of alpha implies beta, where alpha and beta are strings on V union T. That means alpha and beta both will belong to either terminal symbol or non-terminal symbol. Okay, and at least one symbol belongs to V. That means either of alpha or beta shall belong to a non-terminal symbol. Okay, so that means it is possible that both will belong to terminal and non-terminal symbol, but at least one has to belong to a non-terminal symbol, obviously, because whenever you're implying something with something, and you are saying that uh, this thing can be replaced with that means whatever the implication means, what that let's say Ram plays cricket or Ram is a boy, that means Ram implies a boy, so you can replace a boy with a Ram. Okay, so wherever it is saying that all boys likes cricket, so there you can replace the boy quantity with Ram. So that means that Ram is particularly becoming the non-terminal symbol because Ram implies boy. Okay, so like that, that is a general example. But for these cases, you can see that production rule means these implication signs, and on the left hand side of the implication sign, there is going to be the um, non-terminal symbol, because we can always if it is on the left hand side, that means we can always replace those whenever we find those symbols in the right hand side. Okay, so as I said that in this example, V, T, S are the, I have already explained this, what is a non-terminal, what is a terminal, what is a starting symbol, and these are the production rule. Wherever you are finding the implication symbol, that will be your production rule. So A implies AB, A implies A, B implies B are your production rules. Using this production rule and non-terminal, terminal and starting symbol, you need to derive the particular regular grammar. So you can see that A implies AB, and we already have A implies small a. So you can replace this capital A with small a. Now we are getting AB. We also have capital B implies small b. Also we have already replaced the capital B with small b. So finally you got A implies small ab. Now there are two types of regular grammar. One is right linear grammar, one is left linear grammar. Okay. So what is a right linear grammar? A grammar is said to be right linear if all productions are in the form of A implies XB and A implies X, where A and B belongs to set of non-terminals and X belongs to set of terminals. That means if there is a production rule given where the terminal is at the left hand side of the non-terminal, sorry, let me just rephrase it. This is A implies XB. Here A is a non-terminal, B is a non-terminal, but X is a terminal. Okay. So right linear grammar means if in any implication the terminal symbol is in the left hand side of the RHS. Okay, so this is your RHS and this terminal symbol is siding at the left hand side of the RHS. So then it will be called a right linear grammar, or alternatively you can say that the terminal symbol in the right hand side will be siding at the right hand side of the RHS, rightmost side of the RHS. What is the left linear grammar? Left linear grammar is just the opposite. So you can see in this example, A implies Bx and A implies X, where A and B are the non-terminals, X is a terminal symbol. So that means that in those cases where in the regular grammar, the non-terminal symbol in the right hand side is siding at the leftmost side of the right hand side, that will be called a left linear grammar. Okay, so this is your RHS and the non-terminal symbol is siding at the leftmost side of the RHS. Okay. Example. So let's say this is an example. S implies ABS and B. So this sign actually means S implies ABS and also S implies B. These two together combined are written as this. Okay. So in this case, you can see that A and B are your terminal symbol and S is a non-terminal. It is siding at the uh, right hand side, the rightmost of the right RHS. This non-terminal is siding at the rightmost side of RHS. So it is a right linear grammar. And in the second example, the non-terminal symbol capital S is at the leftmost side of the RHS. So it is a left linear grammar. Okay. Okay. So now we are going to see some of the derivations from a given grammar. Okay. So first of all, you have to keep in mind that the set of all strings that can be derived from a grammar is said to be the language generated from that grammar. So you have to explore all of the possibilities. Okay, if there are infinite possibility, so you can start at some point where you can see that there is going to be repeated over and over again. That's it. So that actually you can stop there, because if you are going to get the same thing over and over again, you can find a pattern and you can represent it using a generalized form, and you can say that this is the language that will be generated from that particular grammar. So for example one, consider a grammar G1 where S comma A comma B. So that means these two are the so this is your V, this is your T, this is your A, and this is your P. Always this is going to be given. So this is your non-terminals, this is your terminal, this is your starting symbol, and this is your production rule. Okay, so let me write the production rules. So A, B, right? Now this A, middle A, can be expanded further. Sorry, this first two AA can be expanded further using this particular expression. Okay, so let me just expand it. So A, B. Okay, and then at the end we have also another P. Now again this A can be expanded further. So I can write is A sorry, A, capital A, B, and then you can write these two B's over here. Okay, So you can keep on expanding this particular a using this particular set of small a and capital A using this, because whenever in the right hand side you will look that there is an this thing, and in the left hand side there is already this thing, you can keep on doing that, okay, for infinite number of times. I will just stop it right here by using this particular production rule where A implies epsilon. So that means this is going to be nullify and just remove it from the total string. Okay, so you can represent it using a to the power n, b to the power n. That means wherever you are going to stop, you are going to see that. So even if you stopped right here, you would have got AB. If you had have stopped right here, you would have got A square B square. If you had have stopped over here, this would be A3 B, A cube B cube. Okay, so that is the generalized form. The language accepted by the grammar is A to the power n, B to the power n. Okay, let's take example number 2. Before going on to example number 2, just let me just show you the clearer picture of this thing. That is the ultimate solution. That is going to be a to the power n, b to the power n. Example number 2. Now this is my uh, non-terminals, this is terminal, this is starting symbol, and this is production rule. Okay, so let me just expand this. So first of all, we have is implies AB. Now you can replace this capital A and capital B using these two. Okay. So is there any further implications possible? Any new production or derivation possible? No, I don't think so, because only this is possible. So the language accepted by the grammar is AB. Okay. That is the particular language. So let me just show you the clearer picture. That is the answer. Now let's come to the third example. So always remember, you have to find out what is the language of that particular grammar. This is the grammar and you have to find that particular language. Okay, so what is going to be G3? So this is again your B, T, S, and this is P. Now you have to find out all of the possibilities. So S implies AB. Now I can first of all write these two. So I have already told you that this particular pipe sign means that there are two implications. One is this one is this one. Okay, so that is how the pipe sign works. So now let's come back to the derivation. So first of all, I am using this rightmost side derivations. So this capital A can be replaced with small a and capital B can be replaced with small b. What are the other possibility? I can take the leftmost uh, implications. So here I can write AA and BB. Okay. Again, this A and B can be expanded further. Like this A can be expanded again. So you can keep doing that, and finally you can replace this A and B with the small a and b. Okay. Now another implication can be using either side of them. So let me just take this one and let me just take this one. So you can also expand this in the same way. And you can finally replace with a small a, and let me just write the b. Okay. And lastly, the combination of A's rightmost and B's leftmost. So let me just write it over here. So it can be So you can again expand this, and finally you can expand it using the smallest terminal symbol, the terminal symbol. Okay, so these are the all possibilities. So here you are getting AB, here you are getting, maybe you can say, A cube B cube, here you are getting A cube B, here you are getting A B cube. Okay, so the language, and there are millions and millions of possibilities, because this A can be expanded up to upteenth time. So you can see that there is, the languages accepted are like this. Okay, so I can general, and this will go on the language. Okay, so the ultimate answer will be A to the power m, B to the power n, because I don't know what is going to be what, and m and n are always, sorry, this is wrong, m is greater than 0 and n is also greater than 0. So let me just show you the correct answer for this one. Okay, this is actually wrong. It is only greater than 0, not greater than equals to, because if it is equals to 0, then it would have been 1 and 1. Okay, a to the power 0, b to the power 0, that means 1 and 1. Okay, so that is not possible. Okay. Okay, so now we are going to jump to the context-free language. So what is a context-free language? Basically, whatever is accepted by the push-down automata, that is called a context-free language, and the grammar used in the context-free language is called a context-free grammar. So context-free grammar is also similar to context-free language. You can see that the namings are exactly same, but just instead of T we are using an epsilon for this, sorry, a sigma for this particular set of terminal symbol. There is also set of non-terminal symbols, start symbol and production rule. Now we look, might be looking the same as the regular grammar, but there is one small change in the production rule. The change is that context-free grammar has a production rule from A to small a. So in the regular grammar we saw that it was alpha implies beta. Here capital A implies small a, where small a is V union sigma and their closure. Okay. In this regular grammar we saw that uh, either of alpha and beta or both of them belongs to V union T. That means either the non-terminal set or the terminal set will belong to either of them, both alpha and beta. But here we are only talking about the alpha, sorry, the A. It is, it should belong to V union sigma. That means it should belong to the terminal or the non-terminal set and their closure. That means, what is the difference with this thing and this thing? Actually, whenever we are talking about a closure, that means apart from the set there will be a null also. So it can be an empty symbol or null symbol also. Okay, so it can be null, or it may be belonging to the non-terminal set or the terminal set. Okay. And A, the capital A should belong to the non-terminal set. So this is in the regular grammar we have also seen that A belongs to the, sorry, alpha belongs to the non-terminal set. Okay. So let's see an example. So we are asked to solve this. We have seen this example plenty of times whenever we are talking about context-free language, context-free grammar, or let's say the push-down automata, because that is the basic concept or the basic restriction that we faced in the uh, finite automata, that we had to overcome in context-free language and push-down automata, that we cannot store the memory of how many A's or how many B's are going to be there. So here you can see A to the power n, B to the power n. That means the number of A's will be the same in the number of B's. Okay, so now we have to solve this. So the solving will be similar to whatever we have done for regular grammar, because you just have to replace the values and see if you can get a general expression for that. The procedure is exactly same as the regular grammar. Okay, so let me just start with this one. This is actually my V. This is the terminal symbol, this is the starting symbol, and this is the production rule. The total thing is the production rule, right? So let me start with the starting symbol, that is S. So S implies A, B. And this A can be expanded using this. Whenever we want to stop, we just have to put the epsilon right there. Okay, so let me just expand it for a little bit, then I will put an epsilon. So if I expand it again, it will be A, capital A, B. If I expand it again, it will be triple A, capital A, triple B. Okay, let me just stop it here, and now I am going to put this epsilon in place. Okay, if you see for any kind of language that you are getting repeated, you just go to 2 or 3, maybe maximum 4 steps, and then you can put the alternative symbol where you can just get the set of terminals only. Okay, so now we have got set of terminals. So this is basically A cube, B cube. If you have put A belongs to A implies epsilon over here, you would have got A square, B square. If you would have done over here, you would have got AB. So that is basically A to the power n, B to the power n. So this means this is a context-free language, because you have to store the value of n. So this can be only accepted by the push down automata. So this is the actual answer. Let me just show it to you. Okay. Now let's take an example of regular language and finite automata. So a diagram of DFA is given. Okay, now we are asked to check 4 conditions. These 4 conditions we have to check, and we have to state that which one is the false one, or which set is the false one. 1 or 3, 2 or 3, 2 or 4, and 3 or 4. So let me just first of all look at this one. The question says that this is a DFA given. Okay, so if from Chomsky hierarchy we know that finite automata lies in the bottom of the hierarchy. So regular language and push down, context free grammar, context free language and push down automata are above in the hierarchy than regular language, regular grammar, finite automata. So if a language is a regular language, then it should be a context free language also. Okay, so for the first condition, if it is a DFA, then it is also context free. Vice versa is not true, because DFA is lying lower in the Chomsky hierarchy. If you don't know about the Chomsky hierarchy, please go back to 3 or 4 slides back, or around 10 to 15 minutes back. Okay, so let's just come back to the topic, that it is this particular question is a DFA, so it is also a context free. We also know that if a DFA is having a regular language, or let's say if it is a DFA, the complement of uh, the automata is also a DFA. Okay, so the complement of the language, the regular language, is also a DFA. So if it is a context free language, then the complement of that is also context free language. Okay, so you have to remember that if any given automata is a finite automata or DFA, the complement of that particular language is also a DFA, or accepted by the DFA. So this is also true for context free language. So as it is a context free, the complement of it is also context free. That means statement number 1 is true. Let's talk about statement number 2. Now before going on to statement number 2, what we have to do is we have to find out this particular expression, or we have to find out the language of acceptance, or we just have to find out the regular language that will be regular grammar that will be accepted by this thing, and regular language. So let me just first of all give these three states some names. Okay, now what I have to do is I have to check for all of these three. So I have to check, just have to use incomings only to see their particular language. Okay, so for C, the incomings are from A, B and C itself. So A0 plus B0 plus C0 plus C1. For B, I can see it is the incoming is A1 and B has a self loop of 1, so this is B1. For A, there is no incoming apart from the first one, so A means epsilon. So now I have to just put this epsilon everywhere, and I have to find out using the Arden's theorem. If you don't know about the Arden's theorem, please refer to my last lecture that was done yesterday. So if I put epsilon over here, it will become 1 plus b1. Okay, so if it becomes 1 plus b1, so uh, this is actually b equals to 1 plus b1. So this is actually in the form of, you know what, r equals to q plus rp, and according to Arden's theorem you can rewrite it as qp star. So instead of writing this, I can directly write it as 1 1 star. Okay, because this is your q and this is your p. Now I can put the value of a and b in this equation, then I am going to get epsilon 0, or you can directly write 0 over here, 1 1 star 0, plus I am taking c common, this will become 0 plus 1. Okay. So this is also in R equals to Q plus RP form. This is your Q, this is your R, this is your P. So I can rewrite this as QP star. So it will become 0 plus 1 1 star 0 into 0 plus 1 H star. Okay. So now if I look at this thing, you will see that it looks pretty much similar. 1 1 star 0 1 1 star, the 1 1 star 0 over here, and I have 1 1 star 0 plus 0 into 0 plus 1 star into 0 plus 1 star. Now if you remember the identities of this regular expression, you will find out that this and these are same. That means a plus b star into a star b star is same as a plus b star. So this thing and this thing are basically same. Okay, so this is actually true. Now on to third one. For the language accepted by A is the minimal DFA. So we need to minimize this particular DFA. So how we need to minimize? We have to use the equivalence. If you don't remember it, please refer to my lecture that was given in the last week. Okay. where I talked about the minimization of DFA. Okay, so here how can I minimize it? I have to find out at first zero equivalence. In order to do that, I have to combine the non-final state together and final state together. So here non-final states are A and B and final state is C. Now next I have to find out one equivalence. So in order to find out one equivalence, I have to check the state which is having more than one state and see the incomings for that. Okay, and it is if it is same or not. So when so for in this state we have A and B. So what is going to happen if I apply 0 on A? It is going to go to C. What will happen to B if I apply 0? It is going to go to C. What will happen if I apply 1 on A? It is going to go to B. What will happen if I apply 1 on B? It is going to go to B. So it is exactly same based on the inputs that you are giving and the states it is going to. The transition it is happening. It is exactly same. So A and B are again one equivalent, you can say, and C is left alone as a separate final state. So so if you remember, if two equivalents which are if two equivalents are producing the same state or same set of state, that means it doesn't matter how many equivalents you are going to repeat to, you are going to get the same answer. Okay, so you can proceed and find out two equivalents, three equivalents, but you are going to get the same answer. So that means these two states are a single state and this one is already a single state. So if I change this, it will be AB to C. Now remember A and B were both using this 0, so I have to put 0, and A was giving 1 to go to B and B was also giving 1 to go to B, so I can put a cell over here. Okay, so that is the minimized version. So here the statement is saying that for the language accepted by A, A means the name of the DFA. The total DFA is A, not the state A I am talking about. I am talking about the total DFA. But the language accepted by A is the minimal DFA. No, A is not the minimal DFA. This is the minimal DFA. Okay. So this is not true. This is false. 4. A accepts all string over 0, 1 of length at least 2. Now I have to just check that this statement is true or not. So if it should get accepted with a length at least 2, that means 0 1 0 0 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1. This should be the language of acceptance. What cannot be accepted are 0 1. Okay, so let me evaluate. So if I put 0 on A, it is going to the final state. So that means this is going to the final state, but this cannot be accepted as per statement number 4. So that means statement number 4 is not true, it is false. So your correct alternative should be option D. Okay, so that was it. So the actual answer, let me just write it correctly. So that is the final answer. Okay, so that was it. In the next lecture we are going to see a few more examples of regular and context free grammars and conversion of context free grammars into uh, CNF, that is Chomsky normal form. What is Chomsky normal form? And miscellaneous topics we are going to see in tomorrow's lectures, and the next lectures will the next lecture after that will be delivered on 31st, in which we will try to conclude the syllabus by introducing the Turing machine and seeing different operation with Turing machines. Okay, So thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay inside your home. Catch you in the next one. Bye.